Imagine lying face down in frozen mud for 12 hours straight. Your breath hangs in the air like a signal flare, so you hold it until your lungs burn. One mistake, one puff of steam, and you're dead. Your fingers are numb, your rifle barrel is colder than ice. Somewhere ahead, a German soldier stands up for a split second. Just enough. One heartbeat, one squeeze, one crack through the snow. He drops. You vanish. This is the job German soldiers feared more than tanks, more than machine guns. The ghost in the trees they never saw coming. The Soviet sniper. The Eastern Front was a monster. Thousands of miles of frozen land. Cities turned to rubble. Villages burned. Endless forests where tanks got stuck and trucks froze solid. The Red Army was bleeding fast. German tanks rolled in by the thousands. Soviet factories were pushed past breaking point. There wasn't enough fuel. Not enough tanks. Not enough time. But rifles. They had rifles. Bullets were cheap. Men were cheaper. So they turned to the oldest hunters they had. Villagers who shot wolves for food. Boys who could hit a rabbit at 200 meters. Girls who could slip through a forest without snapping a twig. They built sniper schools near the front. Old barracks turned into brutal training grounds. Recruits learned to crawl for hours without lifting their heads. To wrap their rifles in cloth to stop frost from jamming the bolt. To shoot, move, hide and shoot again. They drilled the same trick over and over. Take out the officer first. Then the machine gunner. Then disappear. One shot could break a whole line of men. Fear could stop more Germans than bullets ever could. Some of these snipers were famous. Most weren't. Most never saw a medal. They were told one thing. Your job is to kill and make them afraid to die. And on that endless front, frozen rivers, forests, fields that turned red with blood. That single hidden rifle cost Germany more than any tank ever did. They didn't live like soldiers. They lived like ghosts. No warm bunkers, no hot meals. Just snow, mud and silence. They dug nests in frozen ground deep enough to hide their breath. They lined the hole with pine branches to block the cold wind. Sometimes they lay there for days, motionless, eyes locked on a single patch of trees where an enemy might appear. They ate frozen bread that cracked their teeth. If they were lucky, they'd have a chunk of salt pork or a boiled potato in a tin. Water froze in their canteens. They sucked snow to stay alive. Pissing was dangerous. Steam rising in the cold could betray them. So they pissed in cans, buried it in the snow, and stayed still. Some tied rags around their feet to keep frostbite away. But many still lost toes. Some lost fingers. And still stayed on the trigger. The Mosin Nagant was their lifeline. Bolt action. Iron and wood. Sometimes they tucked it inside their coats at night so the oil wouldn't freeze. If the bolt jammed when they finally took a shot, they were dead. A good sniper crawled like a worm, inches at a time, one push forward every hour, snow on their back, branches on their helmet, dirt on their face. Sometimes the Germans walked right past them and never knew they'd been seen. They didn't hunt with squads. They hunted alone or in pairs. One sniper, one spotter. One bullet to stop a whole column. Then they'd slip away through the trees like nothing had happened. Some stayed so long in the same nest they froze alive, eyes open, finger on the trigger, waiting for a shot that never came. That was the job. No warmth, no help, no noise. Just you, your rifle, and the ghost of the next shot waiting in the snow. But the Germans weren't blind for long. They learned. They sent their own snipers to hunt the ghosts in the snow. Sniper against sniper. A game where one heartbeat too loud could mean a bullet through the eye. They called it the duel. It happened in ruined cities, frozen forests, bombed out factories. Two hunters crawling for days, each trying to find the glint of a scope before the other did. They studied footprints in fresh snow, tiny marks on broken bricks, the smell of a recently fired rifle. One duel became legend. Stalingrad, winter of 1942. The city was a graveyard of rubble and shattered glass. Vasily Zaitsev, the Red Army's most feared shot, faced off against Major Erwin König, one of Germany's best. König was sent to break the Soviets' sniper spirit, to kill their hero and stop the rumours that were freezing German soldiers in place. They stalked each other for days among ruins and bodies. Zaitsev hid under metal sheets, behind smashed walls, sometimes staying still for so long, rats crawled over him. König laid traps, Fake helmets, decoy shots. One flicker of light on glass could mean death. Zaitsev studied the sun's angle, the smashed windows, the way shadows fell across broken factories. He watched Koenig's bait and didn't bite. When Koenig finally gave himself away, just a flash of movement in a scope, Zaitsev fired first. One shot through the scope, into the eye behind it. The German ghost never fired again. These duels turned snipers into legends and nightmares at the same time. The Germans began to fear they weren't just fighting men with rifles. They were fighting phantoms who could see through walls and snow. Some German units wasted whole artillery shells to flatten empty buildings, hoping the sniper they imagined was really there. For Soviet snipers, every duel was a lesson. Outwait, outthink, outshoot. If you didn't, you ended up just another corpse with a frozen rifle in your hands. And someone else would crawl over your bones to take the shot you missed. Not all Soviet snipers were men. The Germans quickly learned to fear the small, silent ghosts who moved through the forests. Women snipers. The Red Army trained nearly 2,000 of them. They were lighter, quieter, better at slipping through trees and rubble. Their size made them harder to spot. Their patience made them lethal. One name terrified the Germans more than most: Lyudmila Pavlichenko. The Germans called her Lady Death. She was 25 years old when she crawled into her first nest, and she didn't crawl out until she had 309 confirmed kills. Officers, machine gunners, other snipers. Anyone who showed a helmet for half a second. The Germans hated her so much they used loudspeakers at the front, begging her to surrender, promising rewards, then threatening to tear her apart alive if they ever caught her. She didn't flinch. She stayed in the snow, finger on the trigger, moving only when she needed a new line of fire. She wasn't alone. Women like Rosa Shanina crawled the forests of Belarus, racking up dozens of kills, then moving deeper behind enemy lines. Some hunted in pairs. 2 young women lying in snow for days without speaking, covering each other when the time came to crawl away. They weren't safe if captured. For a sniper, capture was a death sentence. The Germans tortured them for days, trying to make them talk, then shot them anyway. The women knew that. They went out with a single bullet hidden in a pocket. If it came to it, that last shot was for themselves. These women turned fear into a weapon. German soldiers whispered about witches in the snow. Officers told their men not to waste time looking, because by the time you saw her, you were already dead. One Soviet sniper could stall a whole battalion for days. A single hidden rifle turned roads into death traps, forests into graveyards. German soldiers were terrified to stand up, terrified to light a cigarette, terrified to peek over a trench. They started seeing ghosts in the trees. Some units fired whole clips into empty branches. Some wasted mortar shells on forests that were completely silent, just to calm their nerves. It didn't matter if the sniper was really there. The fear alone was enough to freeze men in place. Officers gave strict orders: never bunch up, never stand still, always keep your head low. Even so, snipers picked them off. First the sergeant, then the radio operator, then the man who thought he was safe behind the tank. Rumours spread faster than bullets. Some German soldiers believed the Soviets had entire forests full of snipers. Invisible hunters who never slept, never missed, never felt the cold. A snapped twig could make a whole patrol drop to their bellies for an hour. A glint of metal on a hill could stop a column of trucks dead in its tracks. Captured diaries told the same story. Some Wehrmacht troops feared snipers more than tanks or bombers. A tank you could see, a bomber you could hear. A sniper's shot, you never heard it. Only the crack after it hit someone next to you. Even when they weren't there, they were there. A single bullet could break the nerve of hardened soldiers, turn trained men into panicked ghosts themselves, always looking over their shoulder, wondering if a pair of frozen eyes were already watching them through a scope. When the war ended, most snipers vanished back into the snow. No parades, no bright medals, just names whispered by the men who survived them. But their lessons stayed. Every modern sniper still studies how they crawled, how they waited, how they killed with one shot and no sound. The ghost never really left. It's still out there, hidden, patient. Wait, aim, breathe, kill.